Often you have something happen to you where you go, wow, this should be shared, or wow, I wish someone was here to hear this, or and this last Sunday was one of those moments. I want to just step back a couple of days, though. A week before that was my daughter's graduation, and my parents and my wife's parents both came from the West Kootenays. And on the way, my dad decided he would just pick up the Trail Daily Times and to read while he was traveling, and then while he was reading, he came across this incredible article. And when he got to my house here in Penticton, he said, "Guys, you got to take a look at this incredible article." And there's this story about this 84-year-old man that had fallen into a river and capsized his boat, and he was in the water for like 20 minutes or something, and then he was this guy happened to come along on the river with his dog and rescued him. And we thought, wow, that was just an amazing story in itself, that this 84-year-old man was even out fishing in a boat, but been capsized and then rescued like that. And so we were, every time people come over to our house that weekend, we pull out that newspaper article and share it again, because it was such a neat story. And then the following week, we're in church, and there was a time for announcements. And then during that time, the pastor of our Vineyard Church here in Penticton, Pastor Hart, called up Marilyn and asked her to share something. And as Marilyn's sharing, I just started getting a tingle down my spine, and I tried to grab my phone and get up recording, and it was kind of blurry, and it's a large room, so there was some echo, and I thought, well, we need to get the story again. So I just want to pick it up now with Marilyn. We can just chat here. Sure. So basically, you stood up, and Hart had asked you to share, and tell me just what happened from the beginning. What was your side of the story?
Well, the evening before my dad went fishing, I had gone to bed and kind of fell asleep, but I just had a terrible nightmare that just woke me up screaming. I was so frightened in that dream that I was just screaming.
Yeah. And so, what was that dream about?
Okay. I dreamt I was fishing. Or actually, I dreamt I was in my dad's boat, which is just a little 12-foot aluminum boat. And I dreamt I was fishing, didn't know exactly where, but it was a river. And I was sitting so calm and peaceful and just looking around and thinking, like, it's so beautiful here, but I'm in my dad's boat. Where's my dad? Like, this is so unusual that I'm in his boat alone. And I was actually, which is the strange part, I was sitting on the very edge of a whirlpool in this dream. But where the boat was sitting was perfectly calm, but when I looked over the edge, I could see my dad in this whirlpool. And he was just kind of spread out, and he was in the inside of it, and it was just going around and around. And I was shocked. And I was watching him, and I'm thinking, what is going on? Why is this happening? And sort of as I was developing this anxiety and watching him, my dad, in this dream, just lunged out of the water and fixed his hands around my neck and started shaking me and said, "Why aren't you praying for me? Why aren't you saving me?" And that's when it just blew me away. I started screaming and woke myself up, woke my husband up and everything else. And
so this was in the middle of the night, obviously.
This was just in the middle of the night,
yeah.
Just your regular go to bed, go to sleep. And then I had just this awful dream. And when I got up in the morning, it just hit me again how real the dream seemed, It just, I couldn't shake it. It was just bothering me. And I thought, should I phone my dad? And I just had this real, I can't explain it. It's just like, it was dark, like in my house. And it just, as I was trying to go to the phone, it just looked so dark, and I just felt these hands choking me. And I really felt just the real presence of evil. That's what it made me feel like. And so I decide, okay, I'm not going to phone. I'm really scared. I don't know what's going on, but something is not right. And as I gathered my stuff and stepped out the front door, I just kind of broke down and I stopped and I said, you know, Father, what do I do? I had that terrible dream. What do I do? Something is wrong. If I can't phone, what do I do? And he said to pray and to cover all bases. And I kind of thought, okay, well, I know how to pray. I do a lot of that, but cover all bases, like, that part I just didn't understand of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I said goodbye to my husband and I started driving off to work. And as I'm driving, I'm praying, and it just kept coming back to me. God just kept saying, cover all bases, cover all bases. So I thought, okay, if Dad is drowning, what are the circumstances? What do I need to do? So I prayed for a dog to be there because dogs hear so much faster than we do. And I obviously prayed for a man. I thought a man to be there. And kind of last minute I threw in, can you please throw in a boat in there? How is this man and dog going to save my dad? Can you just somehow figure out a boat? And I figured I covered all bases. That's really all I thought to do. I knew Dad didn't need a life jacket. He never went on the river without one. All my life he's always worn his life jackets. So I didn't even think of a life jacket. And the funny thing is I bought him that life jacket for his 80th birthday. Because he was still fishing then.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I got to work, I had that urge. You want to do something good. And I thought, I'm going to phone my dad. And I just felt a real calling from God that said, don't phone. And it bothered me so badly because I was so worried, like just worried, because my dreams are pretty accurate. I call them dreams or visions. They've been always so accurate. And I was mortified for Dad. Just really, really scared. You know, he's 84 and it's spring, it's high water, he's fishing below a dam. You know, the area. I was, even as a child, too scared to go that far up the river because I was so scared of that area.
Did you know that he was going to go fishing that day?
No.
No, you didn't even know he was going fishing that day?
No. But I know about a month previous, I'd say a month to 6 weeks, I started worrying about Dad going fishing. You know, and I just had continued to pray, you know, as soon as I felt like it. I'm like, oh Lord, please keep Dad at home. And if you can't, you know, just look after him. Just look after him.
So he's a passionate fisherman in any case.
All his life.
Yeah.
He was born and raised in Glade. He fished on that river all his life. You know, I felt that he knew it well. It's a current there. And, you know, he had to really know how to navigate that river to fish in the pools.
Wow. So then back to this day, you've gone off to work, you've been praying for him, and how did the rest of your day go? What was that like?
It was pretty uneventful. It was just sort of your typical day. I actually don't think I remembered praying anymore that day. Maybe when I got in the car again, it kind of hit me, and I'm like, oh Lord, if Dad goes fishing, please look after him. That's all I could kind of think of. And came home, and I felt quite satisfied that I had prayed and covered all bases, and I thought, you know, Dad's a believer, you know, God's gonna look after my dad, and I just felt really confident. I felt really confident. And I guess, so, you know, it was about 8:45 or so, and, you know, we're thinking about going to bed, and I get a phone call. And it was my dad. And I thought, that's an odd time for them to be phoning. They're in bed by now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. And when he answered the phone, he was really his voice was shaky and he just didn't know how to get it out. And then he said, I had a near-death experience.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God, Dad, you went fishing. It just what happened.
Yeah.
What happened. And sure enough, he took his boat out and had his life jacket on. Praise the Lord for that, for sure. And he was fishing, and we still can't figure out how that happened to him. He was sitting, I guess, where you sit normally in a 12-foot boat. He had caught his limit, 4 fish. He decided to pack things up, and when he kind of turned to look at the back end of the boat where the motor was, he noticed there was water, about so deep.
Oh.
And so I guess towards the front of the boat was whatever he used for bailing. And I guess by the time he got to the front, grabbed that, got to start bailing from the back, the boat was already flowing inside over the, what is it? It's
transom on the back.
Yeah, the back part anyway. And there was nothing he could do. Nothing. He was calm, I guess. He just he knew he had his life jacket on, and he just let the boat sink underneath him. And he just kind of stayed with it. And how they sink, I don't know if they flip over on their own or he flipped it over, but it flipped. And he just hung on to the upside down boat. And just started praying, like for God to save him, for somebody to save him. And he hung on for, he said, a good 20 minutes, and it was cold. He said he was getting cold. He was starting to lose his grip, and right on time.
Well, there's very cold water there.
Oh yeah, even in the summer, it's not a warm river by no means. Yeah. And he was feeling that urge to slip, and he just, with all his strength, he hung on, and all of a sudden the man and the dog appeared on the river shore, and his name's Chris O'Gorman, and he was hiking with his dog. He lives in that area, so he has a canoe stashed in the bushes.
Covering all bases.
Covering all bases. He had a canoe right there, somewhere stashed in the bushes. But he kept his paddle in his truck. And he knew if he went to his truck and back that he probably wouldn't be able to find Dad. Or, to get to him fast enough. So he just searched the shoreline for something to paddle with, and found the strong enough piece of driftwood, and got his dog to sit still, and off he went to get Dad. And there's pools, there's currents and whirlpools and everything else there, and he navigated through the current, and there's no way he could get Dad in the boat, so he threw out the tow rope, and with all his might, paddled back to shore and got Dad to land, and got him to strip, and started to get a fire going, and Dad said, "No, I'm okay." And really, I don't know if he got dressed again or what, but Chris tried to help him up, and Dad's like, "No, I'm okay." And they walked back to his truck, and I think just about when he got home to my dad's place in Glade, he seen all the search and rescue vehicles going by, because somebody else had been somewhere in that area and seen the overturned boat floating. Okay. And so he phoned the RCMP and said that he had gotten Dad and that he was taking him home, and in the meantime the search and rescue had picked up Dad's boat and brought it back to the ferry, because we have a ferry there in Glade, right, a cable run ferry with a little boat dock and everything, so they had put Dad's boat there, parked it there, and anyway, Dad got, or Chris got Dad settled at home, and they sat down and had a beer. And, yeah.
Well, it's just it just made, just again, I mean, we know we serve, we follow a personal God, but just here, God, you know, God could have gone and set this all up, but He wanted to use the opportunity. I mean, and who knows? I mean, for sure, it built up my faith to see Him here. I didn't know that He was your father, for one. That we're in the same church, you know, 4.5 hours, 5-hour drive away from Glade, and this small world thing happens. But it was just like, wow, just how personal our God is, and how encouraged I was by that. I thought, you know, again, that's just something it'd be neat to be able to pass on. We don't just need to limit to that Sunday morning. It was great that for all the people that were there. But I remember when a couple nights ago, I phoned my parents and said, hey, I remember that paper article. Well, let me tell you the other side of the story, what happened in church this last Sunday. And they were just cheering. They couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
They were already amazed with the story without this side of it.
Yeah, but, for sure.
Yeah, so I was just, it was just a faith-building thing. So, I just thank you for sharing that. And, looking forward to hearing more of what God does in your life. So
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, God bless you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, George.